Welcome to PACTV Community News. I'm Brian Sullivan.
And I'm Julie Thompson.
On this episode, we stop by a Bay Players Rehearsal to hear more about their new original production.
We stop by the recently held legislative breakfast to get an update from the new Pembroke Chamber president. And we hear about a new beer by Indie Ferm Brewing that's named after a good cause.
We meet the guest artist who paid a visit to Silver Lake Regional High School, and we have some new advice from the car doctor.
Jonathan Beater is also on set for Town Talk from the Plymouth DPW. But we start our show in Kingston. An estimated 30,000 runners will take to the streets in Boston on Patriots' Day. Some are racing to win or to improve their times, while others are running to support nonprofits that they're involved in. Locally, we met up with 3 runners, 2 Plymouth women racing to beat their previous times, and 1 Kingston man running to support a nonprofit he's worked with for years.
Josh Warren is no stranger to running. This Patriots' Day, he will run his 3rd Boston Marathon and 17th full marathon. He will be running on the fundraising team for DREAM, an organization he's been involved with for 13 years.
DREAM partners youth in public housing with college student mentors for multi-year mentoring relationships. So a lot of times you may have students who go to a 4-year or a 5-year college and they never step foot in an affordable housing community. Similarly, you might have children who are growing up a stone's throw from a college, but they never step foot on that college campus. So one of the great things that DREAM does is it brings both of those communities together, and they build support systems. So kids can join the program as young as 5 years old, and they may have a number of mentors, but by the time they graduate college, it's not something that's big and scary and a million miles away. It's fun, it's safe, and it's in their backyard. I always like to think of running a marathon as eating a sundae. You have to start at the top and work your way down. So, first you've got the nuts and the whipped cream, and that's, you enjoy it, and that might be like the first 5 or 6 miles. And then you get down to the ice cream, and that's really where, you really start to enjoy things. And then you get down to the very bottom, and it's the like warm hot fudge, and that's the finish line. So as much as you want to just sort of get it all at once, you have to pace yourself and work your way through, and then, the reward at the bottom is totally worth it.
Josh's advice is to keep moving forward. We also met up with 2 Plymouth neighbors who are racing this year's Boston Marathon.
My first marathon was Disney World in 1995. So I had a good day, and it got me to Boston the next year. And then I took a really long break. I've had the itch for a long time and got motivated in 2016 to want to run it again. So I signed up for the Phoenix Marathon, which was last February. It's a lot of physical and mental challenges to train for and prepare for a marathon, but the camaraderie at the start line in Hopkinton, and just everyone there has a story. They've all worked really hard to get there. To take that left turn onto Boylston and just see the crowds there is pretty amazing, and so that's what keeps you going and wants you to get to the finish line. My spouse and my children have been really supportive and motivating. My siblings, my parents are all cheering me on. They'll all be there at the finish line watching me.
I was on the fence whether I wanted to race Boston or not because I just did the Philadelphia Marathon in November. So I felt like I needed more of a break because before Philly I did one in February, so it was just a lot. And then she was finishing, I think, a 10-mile run while I was walking my dogs and encouraged me to go forward. I have a best friend that I run with frequently. So we train together often. He's done a number of marathons, and he actually encouraged me to sign up for my first. Sometimes you feel like, why am I doing this? Because the last few miles can be really painful, but it is a huge sense of accomplishment. And actually, after you're done with the marathon and the day's over, you kind of are like, what do I do with myself? I would say if anyone's out there debating whether they should run a marathon or not, they should.
I'm not running a marathon, but I am running a 5K next week. So I think I'll take their advice and head out on a run. Reporting here in Kingston for PCN, I'm Walter Cicchetti.
The Bay Players are veering slightly off their regular course with their latest production of That Depends, in that the play is an original musical. PCN dropped in one of their rehearsals to catch up with the creator and the director and learn about their approach to this musical comedy.
Come on, Lenny, don't be mad.
I'm not mad, I'm just done. There are a lot of fish in the sea,
It's actually a comedy that takes place in a retirement community. And how I got the idea was there are so many musicals that don't feature older actors and actresses anymore. You know, there's always the ingenue roles that the young girls get to play and the young guys, and there's a lot of us out there that do theater that are older, and we still like to do musicals. So I said, well, what about a play that, you know, I got the idea from maybe like the Pine Hills in Plymouth. I said, what about a play that takes place in a place like that and the crazy stuff that could happen? And I mean, it is a little over the top. It's certainly not a realistic type play. It's a bit over the top. The characters are a little stereotyped, but it's funny.
This is actually what our mission is to introduce theater to people who ordinarily wouldn't participate in it as an audience member. It's local. You don't have to drive to Boston. It's inexpensive. You don't have to pay $20 to park and $80 for a ticket. And it's in your backyard. And the people that are performing are your neighbors. So that's what our mission is as a community theater.
This is a great cast. It's a great cast. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be working on tonight. I know that we're going to do a couple of the musical numbers, maybe 2, 3, possibly 4. And Phil is doing some scenes. And the cast is a lot of fun. These are people that I have mostly worked with before.
This musical isn't sending any type of social, political, whatever message. This is just a fun show, and it's a show about, you know, people in a retirement community and the little issues they deal with, and it's handled and it's tackled in a funny manner. So a lot of the things that are brought up and a lot of things that are talked about are relatable, and they're brought up in a very entertaining, funny manner. And again, these are your neighbors who are singing this stuff and acting this stuff out.
Everybody wants a good laugh. I mean, I really think that, I think it's humorous. I mean, of course I wrote it, so of course I think I'm going to think it's funny. But when we had people that came in off the street that I didn't know that were here for the auditions, and when scenes were being played as an audition, they were all laughing hysterically. And so I think, you know, a lot of musicals are, you know, they're designed to be a musical comedy, but they're really not all that funny. This is funny. So I'm hoping it appeals to people that really don't necessarily go to musicals even.
Not bad. At the very ending. You know, community theater generally does known Broadway shows for musicals. It's very difficult not only to write your own play, but to write your own musical is really tough. I give them a lot of credit for doing this.
I'm going to give her a lot of credit. She's very funny. This Marianne, she wrote, there's about like 21 songs in this thing. I'm kind of spitballing that number. But she's really funny, and the songs are kind of jingly, you know, like, and normally I'm the kind of person like, oh, community theater, you know, take it with a grain. I was laughing like while I'm trying to film, and they're doing like all these different songs. I was genuinely laughing, so I think this show is going to be a lot of fun.
Good, can't wait to see it. It's that time of year again for the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce's Legislative Breakfast. This year it was under the direction of their new president, William Boyle, who took some time out of his busy morning to brief us on the day's events.
This morning we have the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce Legislative Breakfast. So we bring together a lot of our state legislators from the State House, bringing them down here to a local level to address a lot of the issues that are affecting us down here and telling us how things run up at the State House. So we have people like State Representative Josh Cutler, State Senator Vinnie DiMacedo. These gentlemen have been great in coming down and really breaking down all the things happening up at the State House and how it affects us here at the local level. It's very important for the legislators to meet face-to-face with the business community because, again, the decisions that they're helping craft up at the State House directly affect the businesses down here within Pembroke, the South Shore. So we need to have that communication, that dialogue to make sure that we're all working together to make sure everything works out for everybody's best interest. Some of the issues we're going to talk about today, economic development, and especially with our 4 Easter that hit, again, how storms and storm damage and issues arise and affect our local businesses. So that's going to be something that we're going to look to hear about today. And then obviously funding is always a huge issue, and we want to obviously hear about our funding for our schools, the education system, departments like police and fire. So obviously we'll hear how things are affecting us up at the state level as well. And if time, again, the opioid epidemic is something that is real. It affects all of our communities. So we want to hear what's being done to help address that issue. And as of late, unfortunately, issues of gun control and how we can make our children and our schools safer moving forward. One of the big priorities moving forward for the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce is to make sure people, again, know who we are and know that we're here to build the community, to be here for the citizens of not just Pembroke but the South Shore. Because again, our businesses thrive on having people that utilize our products, our services. So we have to make sure that people are aware of what we do, as well as how we look to enrich the community by offering events like this to the public, so you can come down and again be face to face with your state representatives and hear how their decisions are affecting us on a daily basis.
Plymouth Rocks Events is a new nonprofit with big plans of hosting music and film events in Plymouth and sharing the proceeds with school music programs. Indie Ferm Brewing Company offered to make a beer in honor of this nonprofit group in their bold endeavor. PCN stopped over to Camelot Park for the unveiling of this new brew.
Paul Nixon of Indie Ferm was nice enough to brew our new nonprofit our own beer. How many nonprofits have their own beer? We do. So it's called the Plymouth Rocks IPA. It's coming straight off the taps tonight, the very first batch. So we're sampling it, and then Paul is nice enough, he's going to be donating $1 from every pint he sells all weekend long to our nonprofit.
The New England IPA is a style that's become very popular and something we hadn't really explored too much so far. So we decided to make a fairly low alcohol version of a New England IPA, really juicy, not terribly bitter, but a lot of hop presence there. And we decided to use some local ingredients too, so it's about half Massachusetts grown malts from Valley Malts out in Hadley, and it's also, haven't done the math, but somewhere around half Massachusetts grown hops as well from 4-Star Farms out in Northfield. So we decided to make a local beer with local ingredients for a local organization, put it all together, and tonight is the grand unveiling.
Plymouth Rocks Events, I had the idea to do cool music and film events in Plymouth and share proceeds with local school music programs. It was as simple as that, and then I got together with a couple friends, local friends, to say, hey, what do you think about that idea? They said, we're in, and here we are.
We've got Quinn here from Farms to Forks preparing the food, so that's going to draw a few more people in as well. This is probably our 6th or 7th event with Quinn. The food's always fantastic. It's locally sourced, which is an ethic that we share. We try to use as much local ingredients in our beer as possible, just like Quinn does with the food. So it's a match made in heaven, really. We're really happy to work with Quinn and Farms to Forks every chance we get. This is our, 3rd time in about a month.
Hopefully people come out tonight. They're going to try a brand new IPA, locally brewed. Again, Plymouth Rocks Events, we're all about local, supporting local, being local. We have local food here tonight at the event from Farms to Forks, as well as local beer, obviously. And hopefully people are going to check us out, and they're going to help us. They're going to support us.
Financial support for the Guest Artist Program at Silver Lake High School is provided by the Kingston, Plimpton, and Halifax Cultural Councils. In their 3rd year of hosting a guest artist in conjunction with the Youth Art Month and National Arts Advocacy Day, guest artist Gigi Liverant taught the students the finer points of pastel drawing.
I specialize in pastels, working in pastels, and I've been doing that for almost 40 years. It's a medium that lends itself to spontaneity. You can just open the box, pick a stick up and scribble away and have a good time with it. So what we're teaching the kids today is how to use them, the materials involved, the application. I've demonstrated the application. I've shown them what the results look like when you use them. They are working from still life because it teaches you direct observation, how to look, how an artist should look at what your subject matter is and determine what do I want to capture about that. They've got rich colored green, yellow, and red peppers to work with, which gives them an opportunity to use a lot of rich color. Pastels lends itself well to the use of a lot of rich color. When I leave here, Ms. Close will take over and reinforce what I've tried to illustrate to them, the use of value, the use of color, and hopefully they develop some comfort with the medium that really translates to all other mediums. You can do the same approach with watercolor in that you have to think big spaces first, big areas of color, think contrast first, and then start to define the objects, more delineated. Kids and even adults don't tend to think that way. They want to put basically the frosting on the cake before they've made a cake. So you can't shove the cake under the frosting. You've got to think of the big picture first. So hopefully that'll be the big takeaway, and comfort with the medium will be, the upside. Having working artists come in and talk to your students and show them how they work, based on experience, people, especially the art majors, this is great exposure for them. How does a working artist establish themselves? How do they work? What is their history? What is their methods? This is great exposure for the kids. There's nothing you can replace that with except taking the kids to a museum. But talking to a real artist that's working is a special experience.
Anyone who's had to drive back and forth to the Cape over the Sagamore Bridge lately knows that sometimes road construction is nearly impossible to avoid. In honor of National Work Zone Awareness Week, we catch up with the car doctor to get some tips on how to best approach road work.
Hi, I'm John Paul, AAA's car doctor and the senior manager of traffic safety. And springtime is here, and that's the time when construction workers are out fixing the roads, and we have to be extremely careful. 2 workers are killed across the country each day doing their job, working out on the highways. And as motorists, we have to be the ones who have to be especially careful. And there are a few things you can do. And it first starts off with, don't drive distracted. This is the time that you want to make sure you put your cell phone down and you're not distracted. 2 hands on the wheel, 2 eyes on the road, really pay attention to driving. Also keep in mind the weather conditions. In wet weather, and we can have some rainstorms, we can have snowstorms this time of year, you can lose a lot of traction. So be aware of the road conditions. In fact, in the first 15 minutes of a rainstorm, that's when the roads can get most slippery. So be aware of that. Also, keep your eyes up and constantly scan the roadway ahead, looking for those people working, looking for the people doing their jobs. If you've ever been by the side of the road changing a flat tire, you have a little hint of what that's like when cars are whizzing by. So be extremely careful, let those people do their jobs, and just really pay attention while you're driving. As you're going through a construction zone, the speed limits become lower. Pay attention to those speed limits. Look out for construction equipment, the flaggers, anybody who's working out there. They're out there doing a job, and let them do it, and let them do it safely. And heed any direction. They may tell you to slow down. They may tell you to stop. You have to pay attention to that because they're doing it for their safety as well as your safety when you're on the road.
We are so pleased to welcome back to Town Talk Jonathan Beater, who is the Director of Public Works Department for the town of Plymouth. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here today. And the main objective is we need to talk about glass, because there's been a big change in glass, which deals with recycling and deals with transfer station and everything else. So why don't you tell us what's happening in the glass market that makes this so important?
Yeah, sure. There's been a lot of changes over the past couple of weeks. Our main distributor, one of our haulers for glass, has gone out of business in Franklin, and we needed to make some changes at our transfer station, Manamit Transfer Station. We did that a couple weeks ago. So we're asking all the residents to start separating glass from the commingled. If you go to the transfer station, you'll see a new collection area for the glass, which is up on your right. We have signage there which really tells the residents what to do and how to get rid of the glass. So we're asking for help with that to really keep our costs down. We were paying $40 a ton for our commingles. That number went up to $125. So if we can keep the glass out of it, we're in a much better shape financially.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Let's just go back for 1 second. Let's define what is commingle. When I recycle, when I go to my curbside recycling, I'm throwing everything in one.
Yeah, so when you go to the transfer station, you separated paper and cardboard. So it's everything else. It's the aluminum, it's the plastic, and the glass. That's what we refer to as combing of the transfer station.
Okay.
What happened last Monday is we started separating the glass out. So right now, what you can dispose of as commingled is the aluminum and plastic. We just ask that you separate out the glass.
And that's only if you go to the transfer station.
Only at the Manama transfer
So if you're
station.
going to your curbside, you still can throw the glass in there, but somebody else has to then take the glass out.
That's correct. On the curbside piece with ABC disposal, that's still single stream. So everything is still in one cart, and then the hauler, ABC, will separate that out at their facility.
Okay. So something happened with China, and China, we used to send a lot of our glass recycling to China.
Yeah.
What has happened
Yeah,
there?
back in October, actually September, China really stopped import of all recyclables from the U.S., and that's because of tolerances. For example, your paper.
Yep.
Paper has recycled glass in it. Anything above 0.5%, they stopped taking.
Okay.
And it was just very similar in plastic and newspapers, and anything that's contaminated in their mind, they stopped taking. So that's been happening for the past couple of months, and that's really upset the whole recycling industry nationwide. So a lot of trash haulers, waste haulers, recyclers have had materials stockpiled on their lots because they haven't found a home for it yet.
Right.
And those costs are coming back to us, our municipalities. So we're trying to.
We have to send it somewhere.
It has to go somewhere at the end of the day. So we're collecting it. It's just we're having a hard time disposing of it.
Wow. So I would think all communities are having a hard time. This
Yeah,
is
not only the
Plymouth
communities,
specific.
but just people. Just anybody has to get rid of trash. Who's everybody?
Right.
You know. So we're all going to see that over the next couple of years. It's going to continue to be an issue that we have to face.
And it's glass more than anything right now.
Glass more than everything right now. That's correct. Because
Plastics
again,
is a whole other issue.
Locally for us, there was a facility in Franklin that went out of business. So we're all trying to find a home for that. A lot of people looking to crush glass and use it on roads and use it as other fill material.
Yep.
So those are some of the things we're looking at.
So we're hoping that technology or new technologies might be developed.
Yeah, great point. We need new technology to recycle and really to find a sustainable approach to recycle these products.
Right. And the biggest advocate or the biggest thing we could do is to reuse. To use things that are reusable over and over and over again that we don't have to discard or recycle.
And to have facilities locally, because a lot of the stuff's going to wind up going on rail, whether it be to New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or overseas, and that's where you incur the most costs when that happens. So if we could get some more local solutions, it'd be far better for the municipalities around New England.
Right. Okay. So just to encapsulate right now, residents of Plymouth have two options to recycle.
Yeah, our two options for recycle, if you're a curbside customer, it's single stream with ABC disposal. But if you're going to the transfer station, the biggest change, which happened a couple weeks ago, is for the residents to recycle the glass, which means they have to separate that from the commingles. So there's a new collection area for the glass at the Manama transfer station.
And it's clearly marked.
Clearly marked signage, and if anybody has questions, they can call me or my office at 508-830-4162.
Okay, 830-4162. Call Jonathan. Okay. Yes. Now, talk a little bit about the debris collection, because the storms left an awful lot of debris everywhere.
Yeah, after Storm Riley a couple weeks ago, we had a lot of trees down, still a lot of debris in the roads. We're still collecting that. But for the residents, we did a collection a couple weeks ago behind the wastewater treatment plant at Camelot Drive. We'll be doing another one this weekend, Saturday the 14th and Sunday the 15th from 8 to 3.
Okay. And that's what kind of debris can you bring?
Any storm-related tree debris, vegetative, brush, branches, leaves, things like that.
Trees, big.
Yes.
How big can you bring?
Anything tree-related, as big as they can get in their truck.
Okay.
We will take it for them. Okay. Yes, we think it's a great service.
What about burning? Do people try to burn? Is that allowed?
People can burn. That's through the fire department. I think they can do that online.
They need to get a permit.
They need to get a permit. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So the takeaways for today are obviously we really, really, really need people to start thinking about recycling. Reuse first, if at all possible, and recycle. And when you recycle, glass is right now the #1 entity that we really need to make sure gets put aside from the plastic and the paper and the aluminum, so that we can at least have that separation already done for us for the town of Plymouth.
You're awesome. You know it. Exactly. So we're just asking the residents to separate the glass at the transfer station, but keep an eye towards recycling, because there are going to be changes.
In that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, reuse. The more you can reuse, the better off we are.
That's correct.
Okay. That's anything else DPW related? Where spring's coming up and the tourist season's here?
Everything is upon us, right? We're all looking for the better weather. But we are ready to start a lot of our projects. We have a lot of road work this year. But again, we're still cleaning up road debris.
Right.
Potholes. It's that time of year, that transition from winter to spring, and
I
think everybody's looking forward to it.
Can you speak a tiny bit about the potholes?
Potholes, we're out there.
Yep.
We have 2 crews out every day patching potholes everywhere. But again, if anybody has an issue, they can give Highway a call at extension 100. That
Okay.
number I gave you, 508-830-4162, extension 100, and just let us know.
Okay.
But we'll be out in force for the next couple of weeks trying to get ahead of those.
Get ahead of those. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Lots of stuff.
Absolutely.
From the Department of Public Works. Thank you. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the show again, you can check out our website, and PCN's also on YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook to get up-to-date info. We'll see you next week with a brand new PCN. From all of us at PACTV, have a great week.